towards me. All I could do was put my hands out to stop him from getting too close to me, the exit doors, and the lavatory. He grabbed my forearms, and while I was still sitting in my seat, he grabbed as hard as he could. I managed to get my arms away, but he flailed his hands and arms around, hitting me repeatedly with his fists. The plane was still on its descent. He then sat on the floor next to me and refused to go to his seat. At this point, the pilot aborted the landing. As Mr. Bowers sat on the floor and I remained in my jump seat, he ranted that there was a man in the front of the plane with a gun and a bomb and that he was going to watch me die. I called the captain again and told him what was happening. I asked if we could land with the passenger on the floor and was told to try and get him into a seat. The captain told me that we would continue to circle over Chicago until I let him know that the passenger was seated. I continued to explain to Mr. Bowers that he needed to get into his seat, but instead he pulled himself into a small place near the lavatory and remained crunched up on the floor. The commuting flight attendant then moved back to her original seat to free up the seat at the back of the airplane. Mr. Bowers then started screaming loud enough for all of the passengers to hear that the plane was going to land in the water, and that as long as everyone could swim, they would be okay. The other passengers began to panic. I now got out of my jump seat and tried to calm and reassure the other passengers while staying near Mr. Bowers. When I saw him place a hand on the seat, the Continental pilot helped me pull him into the adjacent seat, and we got him seatbelted in. I called the cockpit again and told them to land and get the security to the airplane as soon as possible. I was relieved to feel the tires hit the ground, but did not know that the worst of the assault was yet to come. After we taxied to the airport terminal and stopped, Mr. Bowers again began screaming profanities. When I walked by his seat, he pulled me on top of him. As I struggled to get away, he started kicking, hitting, and punching my entire body. He did not hit my face, but did bruise most of the rest of my body. I pushed away from him, and he tried to get me, but luckily was still seatbelted in. Even though all the passengers could see the attack, not one person got up to help me. The Continental pilot seated next to him managed to hold on Mr. Bowers' hand so that I could get past him. I ran to the interphone and informed the pilots again that I needed help because the passenger was beating me. The first officer finally offered to come back and help me, and by the time I got off the interphone and turned around, Mr. Bowers was standing right in front of me. As I asked him to take his seat, he got angry and grabbed me between my neck and shoulders and began violently shaking me. I kept asking him to sit down as he asked me to forgive him because he loved me. Just then I saw the cockpit door open and told the passenger that the pilot was on his way back to talk to him. Mr. Bowers dropped his hands and went to his seat. The first officer, having seen part of the attack, then relayed to the captain, telling him to get security out here now because the passenger is beating her. We could not open the airplane door until security met the airplane. After 15 minutes at the gate, the captain finally informed me that security had arrived. When I opened the door, I was not met by security but by 8 ramp employees who were more interested in seeing the passenger than actually helping. I asked them to go and get security now. A few minutes later, 2 police officers from the O'Hare Airport Police finally arrived. They stood at the bottom of the stairs and would not board until I told them that the passenger had hit me and agreed to sign a complaint against him. We had now been at the gate with Mr. Bowers on board the airplane for 20 minutes. He was removed from the plane in handcuffs, and I was later told by police that he had been so violent, his mugshot had to be taken through the prison bars. Once he was off the plane, I started shaking that did not stop for 5 days. I was taken to the police station around 11 p.m. and remained there answering questions until about 1:30 a.m. I was up crying most of the night, and the next morning at 7 a.m., as I prepared for a 9 o'clock a.m. meeting with the FBI, I received a phone call from my in-flight supervisor, who said, "So, you were assaulted last night?" I said yes, and she asked me where my paperwork was for the flight. She was more concerned about the paperwork than my well-being, and that was the first encounter with a company that never offered me any support or assistance after my violent assault. For the next few days, I attempted to get help from the company. First, when I told them that my back hurt, I was sent to the University of Illinois Clinic in the airport. I was checked by a non-physician who told me that I was fine. By the 3rd day, when I was still shaking and had not slept or eaten, I called the company's employee assistance program. It took 3 days of numerous phone calls to the director, leaving desperate messages for help, before he finally called me back. When he did, he told me he had been extremely busy. Here I had been assaulted at work, one of the worst, if not worst, cases of assault American Airlines has ever had, and no one was helping me. Ultimately, the help I needed came from the union, the FBI, and the lawyer that I hired. After 2 months off, I decided to return to work. My seniority level gave me the security of knowing that I would not have to fly alone, which I was not mentally prepared for. I did have to work by myself on a couple of flights, but they were short and the crews were very supportive. Then I was forced by the company to fly a Cleveland flight by myself, even though the other flight attendant was less senior. I was asked afterwards if it was out of my system. Although the trip was uneventful, I left the company after a month and took a workman's compensation leave from last August to March. Since I was not allowed to work while collecting workman's compensation, I moved from Chicago back to my parents' home in Minnesota and never returned to work as a flight attendant for American Eagle. Last October, Mr. Bowers pled guilty to interfering with a crew member and was sentenced to 15 months in prison with a 3-year supervised probation. He was also ordered to pay restitution for costs associated to the incident not covered by my insurance. Days after the sentencing, I received a letter from the company requiring me to see a company-selected physician. The physician, after the evaluation, told the company I was fine and was informed by the company that I had to return to work on March 1st or I could be fired. I resigned on March 1st. On that day, I gave up the dream I've always had of being a flight attendant. For as long as I can remember, it is all I've ever wanted to do. On one short trip, my life was changed forever, not only by the assault, but by the actions of the company. I am still in Minnesota and am now studying international business at a college near my hometown. I am hoping that this field will allow me to travel, but I will never travel as a flight attendant again. What happened to me should never happen again to another flight attendant or crew member. Passengers must get the message that they will be punished for attacking crew members. Courts must impose stiff sentences on passengers who violate the federal statutes. Carriers must stand by their employees, doing everything they can to protect their safety and help them if they are assaulted. I fought for justice and continue to fight for justice so that I can make a difference and so that this will never happen again. As I have said, I was the only flight attendant on that flight. My assailant endangered not only me when he attacked me, but endangered the lives of all of the passengers. If I had been incapacitated, there would have been no one on that plane to deal with an emergency. He also endangered the flight by attacking me during one of the most critical phases of flight, descent, causing the first landing to be aborted. This also jeopardized the safety of the aircraft crew and passengers. I urge you to help us protect crew members who are dedicated to promoting and protecting your safety and health every time that you fly. Thank you for allowing me to testify before you today. I will be pleased to answer any of your questions.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Tess, and I will say the same thing I said to Ms. Naffel. Passengers who do these types of things on airlines should be banned from flying at least for a year, or if not permanently.
As far as I've been told, the passenger who assaulted me has been banned off of American Airlines.
Well, that's good. That's very good. They should be prosecuted civilly and criminally, but we should take those types of actions too. I'm going to go first for questions to Mr. Lipinski.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank both of you for your testimony, as not only you two, but all four of you, but particularly you two for your testimony about the horrendous experiences that you had, and I echo the sentiments of our chairman. We know that alcohol, the captain said it's between 25 and 33%, you believe, is the percentage of problems caused by alcohol. Is that correct?
It's between 1/3